So dudes, this is a Twitch stream highlight where I got into a little discussion, heated, friendly discussion with my buddy Pro about the difference of recoil in Valorant versus other games. And I think we both make some pretty interesting points in terms of comparing and contrasting the specifics of how recoil is managed from game to game in terms of the variables that are implemented to add a certain degree of RNG to those types of games. Before we do that, I want to thank the Ridge for sponsoring this video. They sent me this beautiful Ridge wallet made out of Damascus steel. That is real. That is stainless steel. The panels on the front and the back, that is stainless steel. This stuff is the real deal. You can tell all the little cracks and crevices you can see there are the effect of multiple layers of steel kind of being pushed together under extreme heat. That's where Damascus steel gets its unique traits from. If you compare and contrast these designs, they're the more typical designs of Ridge wallets are much lighter. Obviously, because this is made of stainless steel, it has a very heavy, durable kind of feel to it. It has a lot more weight. Ridge makes all kinds of lifestyle products for people who mind simplicity, but also durability. These things have a lifetime warranty. Compared to a typical cell phone, they really don't take up a lot of space in your front pocket, which in my opinion is a good thing. Because it's out of the way and it's there when you need it. The design basically sandwiches all of your cards together with an elastic band like this, and there's either a cash strap or a money clip on the back to keep your cash. So it's a really simple but honestly super effective way to keep all your cards in cash. If you want 10% off of your own Ridge wallet, you can go to ridge.com/Gregor and they'll ship it to you for free. If you don't like it, you can also return it for free. I'm a huge fan of the Ridge and all the products they put out. They're a great company and they make great stuff. And they've been a friend of the channel for a long time. So if you want to get a discount, go to ridge.com/Gregor. Like I said, link is in the description. Thanks so much.
All I'm saying is I do see like Valorant being off-putting, not because of the abilities or the maps, but purely because of the gunplay. It is asymmetrical gunplay compared to like a comp shooter that's as hardcore as CS or a more
gunplay's
casual.
fine.
College. I mean, I think it's fine. I don't think they need to do anything to it. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I understand that it's off-putting. Is that it is a weird.
It has
way.
no more or less randomness than like half of other comp shooters I've played.
Well, you need
Siege's recoil is fucking random.
Siege's recoil isn't random though.
It's more random than this game.
No, this game is literally intentionally randomized. You can read that in developer notes.
I don't know what you're talking about, Pro.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
I mean, like you're saying stuff like developer notes. I don't know. Like I don't know what that means. Developer notes where? Like what? What is there a specific patch note rollout that they stated something? What did they say?
They literally every fucking week have a dev blog. And yes, when the game came out, that was one of the things that they said, was that the recoil was intentionally randomized.
So how is Siege recoil less random than Val?
You can control Siege recoil. It's
what does that mean? What does that mean?
Mid?
It means it's predictable. There isn't predictable.
What specifically can you do to counteract it?
You can mitigate it via mouse movement.
What kind of mouse movement?
Okay, you're pissing me off.
Bruh.
I'm just trying to get to the heart of the question. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean,
why are you so mad?
I have literally, there's no other way to describe it other than Valorant does not have predictable recoil.
Okay,
it
man.
It has randomized recoil.
Got it.
Unlike every other comp shooter on the market that has predictable recoil, Valorant does not.
So, you can't counteract recoil in this game with mouse movement.
I know that I am by your
Not reliably.
It's just not true.
But
it's not.
It is true.
Okay.
If you were to try to go into Valorant and reliably shoot the Vandal into a tight shot circle, you would have way harder of a time, and it would be much less accurate and reliable than it would be to do it any other shooter on the market.
Okie dokie.
Siege has laser beam guns. CSGO literally has recoil patterns that are the same every time you fire the gun. Call of Duty has laser beams. Valorant has randomized recoil. So yes, while it follows a sort of like
Predictable
this
pattern.
gun's gonna carry
Yes.
this gun's gonna carry to the left. It doesn't follow a pattern. It has a direction. You can't like practice a recoil pattern to become more accurate with a gun.
That's just not accurate.
I mean,
Yes,
I
when it gets to
literally
the
go
end of the
find-
spray, it goes like left and right at like a variable rate. That is a deliberate design choice. Yes.
Yes, it's a
But
randomized
the
recoil
pull
pattern.
the pull down before it hits that point is predictable. Like it just is, man.
Well, that's just any gun ever.
So if it's any gun ever, then why is Valorant not predictable then? Because you just said it's any gun
Because
ever.
it has a randomized. When you hold mouse 1 in CS:GO, the gun will fire the bullet in the same spot at the same trajectory every single time, the exact same, anytime you hold mouse 1. Valorant does not have that feature.
And
Valorant,
Siege does.
when you-
Siege has that feature, right?
Siege does have that feature.
No,
yes.
it doesn't. No, it fucking
Yes, it
doesn't.
does. Yes,
No,
it
it doesn't.
Yes.
What are you
it
talking
does.
about?
Yes, it does.
Sources, citations.
Go look at
links.
any Rogue 9 video ever where he shows you that the gun fires in the same pattern every time.
Okay.
And can show you when he just holds mouse 1 where the difference in the recoil pattern from a previous patch to the new recoil is.
And it goes. The bullets go in the same spot every time.
Pretty much.
What? No, that's not a gun. That's
Oh
not
my
a good
God.
enough measurement.
I don't understand how to like explain this gameplay mechanic to you other than it has randomized recoil. You're fighting it. I understand
Okay.
you're trying to prove a point that it's like, no, it's not. But literally, they have. I will when this game is over, I'll go find
Okay.
where they have stated explicitly. Yes, it has randomized bloom, and it has RNG for first shot accuracy.
CS:GO doesn't have bloom.
No, it has a set recoil pattern. That's why an AK literally. That's why you always hear the joke of backwards sevens, because an AK sprays the same way every single time you fire it.
You're saying that Valorant has bloom, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It has randomized bloom. It doesn't have.
And that's
set
the
recoil
only
pattern.
game like it that has bloom.
Yes, because CS:GO has set patterns.
CS:GO does, or Call of Duty doesn't have bloom. Siege doesn't have bloom.
Oh my gosh, what are you trying to say here?
I'm not trying to say anything.
You understand what the word randomized
I'm trying to
means,
understand
right?
what you're saying.
I'm saying what I'm saying. It has randomized.
I'm literally gonna boot up Siege right now.
Is randomized recoil.
So the bullets go in the same spot every time in a Siege recoil pattern.
CS:GO. In CS:GO, that's how it works. Yes.
In CS:GO, yes, but in Siege, you're telling me that it goes.
In
There's
Siege,
no
it has a
randomness
set
in Siege.
cone. In
That's
Siege, it has a set
random.
cone.
That's bloom, isn't it? Is that not random? There's a variable. There is a variable involved in the direction where the bullet goes, which means there's randomness involved. There's controlled randomness because it's a variable. Correct? Am I wrong? Please tell me if I'm wrong.
What are you trying to say? I don't understand what you're trying to say.
I don't understand what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that like Valorant has random recoil that's not comparable to other comp shooters. And I'm trying to say that it is comparable to other comp shooters.
Well,
It's not like
90%
completely
of the
out
internet
in the
that is
fucking
telling you why they hate
stratosphere.
Valorant is telling you otherwise. Like, I don't. That was
Yes,
the point.
90% of Siege players who don't know how gunplay works in other FPS games because they like spraying at head level and getting a headshot with a laser beam gun. So forgive me for being somewhat dismissive of that. The fourth fucking bullet goes somewhere completely different every time that outweigh the cons of what? This is literally like how recoil works in like every other FPS game, is it not?
No. But I'm telling you, that's
What are you
not
talking
how it
about?
works. That's why everybody is upset with Valorant, and why everybody says Valorant has weird gunplay. Is because the dead zone in Valorant is way larger than any other game because it has randomized bloom, meaning that the recoil is random anytime you shoot the gun. While yes,
Siege
and
is
I
not-
understand
Siege
by
is
saying
not-
this, you're like, then it's not random, that it has like a set cone of where the direction of the recoil is going to kind of like shape, but it's still random within that shape. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But Siege also
Whereas
has bloom.
Siege has a much tighter cone. As in, yes, Siege is going to have some visual inaccuracy and probably some human error at it, where when you shoot the gun, a bullet was going to end up in a different spot,
But they often end up
barely away from where
in
it would.
different spots.
But it's
I mean,
way
like,
tighter. Do you understand what I'm saying? In Valorant, you have first shot accuracy that is also RNG, dependent on your movement speed and
how
direction.
many gunfights are you losing because a bullet at the 5th
Because of
shot
randomized
your
recoil,
spray
a lot of them.
compared to other FPS games?
The
Like
intention
COD?
behind the design in Valorant is so that you cannot spray an entire clip like you can in CS:GO. In CS:GO, you can shoot an AK. You can shoot an AK 3 clips in a row, and if you've practiced the recoil, you can laser beam it.
But there are several
into the
guns.
same
There's several
spot every
guns
time.
in Siege that fucking like recoil left and right to the point where you're
Yes.
not able to control them.
Okay, we're Microsoft Paint. Hold on, we're Microsoft Paint now, so that you can understand this.
I'm not having a difficulty understanding it. I'm just pointing out
Okay,
the
here,
fucking
look
like.
at this.
People seem to have this idea that Val is like breaking some kind of convention in terms of implementing bloom in a comp shooter, and that's just not fucking true. There are plenty of shooters with
It's
fucking
not that
bloom
it's
in them.
implementing bloom, it's that it's implementing randomized recoil.
What the fuck is the difference between bloom and randomized recoil?
Are you looking at Microsoft Paint?
Oh my god. All right, cool. Let's look at Microsoft Paint. All right, I'm looking.
Okay, so here we have Valorant, right?
Yes.
Valorant's recoil. Let's take like the Vandal, right? We have the Vandal. It's gonna have this recoil that essentially operates in this shape, right?
Okay.
And anytime you shoot the gun, it can be anywhere in this shape. And yes, it kind of set intervals, but it's going to be somewhere in this shape, right?
Uh-huh.
Because it's randomized, it has excessive bloom, and it has spray inaccuracy. If we go to CS:GO, which is the premier comp shooter, and we take the AK fires in the same pattern every single time. Every single time, you're going to get the same pattern. Anytime you pull the trigger, you
Okay.
get this same operating pattern.
Yes.
That you can literally, a professional player can literally tell you shot by shot where and how he's going to have to move his mouse.
Yes.
Do you understand? It doesn't have a circle of an
Yes.
operation. That does
Yes, I
not how
understand
it
that.
works in CS.
I understand that.
Valorant has this circle of operation where anytime you shoot the gun, it can go anywhere inaccurate, including the first shot. Because the first shot depends on movement, it depends on falling, it depends on any sort of gadget operation that's hit you, depends on, it will affect your accuracy of your first shot. Only and only if you are standing completely still with no extra gameplay tag on you, like a flashbang, like any sort of gadget attack, any sort of falling, any sort of movement, anything like you've shot your gun recently, will it be 100% accurate? In CS, anytime you shoot the gun, the first bullet will always go in the same exact spot, even if
Okay.
you're shot.
I'm gonna spray at a wall. With an
Now,
F2.
Now, if we go to like, let's say, Siege, right? Let's erase CS here, and let's go to Siege. Siege also operates. We'll make Siege green. Siege. And we'll take the R4C. How about that? The R4C. Siege also operates in the cone. Yes, in this cone. But Siege has first shot accuracy, as well as it follows a much tighter cone, because it's not going to be as wide. It's going to be much tighter. And so, yes, might have some bloom to it, but it follows a much tighter cone. It doesn't have all this
How
extra
much is
shit
the variation of the
outside.
first shot accuracy in Val to the point where it has like
Enough to get Reddit
significant-
threads.
that doesn't then if it's enough to get a Reddit thread, that's very little. Reddit threads, people make Reddit threads about fucking anything.
So like, again, the Vandal's gonna follow this big spray pattern. In Siege, like you have the R4C, it's gonna have this very tight spray. Very tight. It will have some bloom, and so after the first shot that is completely accurate, you will have a little bit of variation just because of how the Siege gameplay works, but it is going to be much tighter. Whereas Valorant, you have first shot accuracy that can be affected by gameplay, and then you have random all the way up. You could shoot one shot and your second bullet could be all the way over to the right or all the way to the left. There's no predictable accuracy in Valorant. That's why the gameplay feels so weird to people and why people
You're telling me that the bloom is so bad.
I'm telling you that you could go into the Valorant firing range right now and you could try to shoot 2 bullets 6 times in a row, and the second bullet would go a different direction every time.
As opposed to Rainbow Six.
As opposed to Rainbow Six, or CSGO, or even Call of Duty. That's why Valorant's gameplay is very weird. Because again, in CSGO, every time you shoot the gun, it's going in the same direction, in the same spot, that you can mitigate it every single time.
There's deviation here that went
your first shot hits the same spot every single time, and then it follows a set, tight cone spray.
So the first shot in Val hits something like in between, like a tiny fucking circle, like here, and then it follows a fucking cone, and then it has the side-to-side thing.
It follows a giant blob, is what it follows. Is that in Siege, you could shoot your first shot, and so like, here,
there's a cone, and then it does the fucking side-to-side trick.
But
it's still a cone.
Let's make a new page really fast. Hold on. Okay, let's split this in 3. So CSGO, right?
That's
first
a Val
shot.
gun. I just shot a Val gun. What I just did. Basically.
Not really.
Why not?
Because
it's the same principle,
in
isn't it?
Siege,
Aren't the same variables being applied
Siege,
to it?
Maybe okay. Let's nix the word cone, because in Siege it does follow a cone, right? It stays tight and then gets predictably larger and more inaccurate. In Valorant, it doesn't have the cone at the bottom. It just becomes inaccurate. So in CS, let's say the first shot is an X, right? First shot on a gun is an X. So let's take the AK, and then after that, you have the same pattern every single time. In Siege, you have bloom, yes, and you have a set recoil cone. So you have the first shot that is completely accurate, and then you have this bloom recoil cone. And so your second shot is going to end up fairly close to where your first shot is, and then carry up in a sort of set direction. In Valorant, that's not how it works. In Valorant, you have a first shot that is not completely accurate every time. It is determined by movement and any sort of additive gameplay. Now, if you're standing completely still, it can be completely accurate. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It's not a set thing like in CS and Siege. And then it follows this big pattern that is, yes, akin to CS's. If you were to take the AK and the Vandal, is akin to where it's going to kind of carry, but your second shot could end up right above your second shot, or it can end up way to the left, way to the right, middle, top, anywhere, and then follows this sort of continually carrying up. I mean, you can literally see on your screen.
That looks like a fucking Siege recoil pattern to me.
Shoot next to it. Shoot like 3 lines next to each other, and you'll see the second shot is never in the same spot.
I literally did the same thing. I literally did the same thing in Siege.
Far right, right above. Far left again. Far right again. Far left again. You can literally see the second shot is inaccurate. The shots end in a different spot every single time. And so now try holding down. Try actually mitigating the recoil. Just pulling down is not the solution here. Because it's going to sit, the second shot's going to hit a different spot every single time. And the more you spray, the more left and right it's going to get because it's randomized. Yes, it follows a set like blob, like it has a set cone.
It has a blob. It
use.
has a blob cone like Siege. Like fucking COD. Like any other shooter game. I don't understand what this argument is.
I don't understand. I'm trying to explain it as best as I can, and I'm just telling you that the reason very much that people don't like the gameplay in Valorant is because of this exact mechanic. And named expressly.
But you're saying it's like vastly different than any other comp shooter out there on the market besides CS:GO. Besides fucking CS:GO, right? We know that CS:GO is different.
CS:GO is the comp shooter.
Okay. That doesn't matter because that's not the hypothetical that I'm trying to get at. Okay, I already know CS:GO has strict recoil patterns.
I think it's only accurate really to compare Valorant to CS. Other than Siege or Call of Duty or Overwatch or any other like top 5 FPS because of the way that the gameplay and the movement systems work. But you're playing in CS and Valorant, you're playing the slow tactical, you have movement based, you have momentum based movement, right? You have counter strafing. In Siege and Call of Duty, you have much faster movement, you have much faster gameplay, you have the ability to jump, crouch, anything like that doesn't affect your recoil whatsoever. There's no movement-based inaccuracy to Siege and Call of Duty. Likewise with Overwatch. Overwatch follows the same kind of convention.
That's a pretty tight spray pattern, man. That's with no deviation. There's no deviation of my mouse. I'm just clicking like 5-6 shots.
And here's the Exerto article. Riot responds to evidence of critical failure in Valorant recoil. Here's patch notes talking about weapon inaccuracy changed from walking inaccuracy changed from 1.3 to 2 point. Running changed to 5 point because of the running and gunning issue that they had through the first year of the game. Bullet tagging changed from 75% slowing to 72.5% slowing. Dead zones changed from 30% to 27.5%.
I understand what you're
It has a larger blob. That's the only like dumbest like kindergarten way I can think to dumb it down to explain it is that it has a way larger blob than every other comp shooter on the market.